All right. We have, what's that? Oh, he's there. He can hear me. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call to order the closed session portion of the meeting. Ms. City Clerk, if we can go ahead and take the roll, and if I can encourage council members, please, to take your seats.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Here.
Councilmember Charette is not present at the moment. Councilmember Reynoso is not present at the moment. Councilmember Kelvin?
Present.
Councilmember Alexander? Present. Mayor Valdivia is not present, and Mayor Pro Tem?
Here. Thank you. Ms. City Clerk, I have one comment here. I'm not sure if there are any others online or anything else, but I'll just go ahead and proceed with this one public comment for Treasurer Ortiz.
Good evening, Council. So again on the agenda is a request by the mayor to cover his legal fees for his 3 sexual harassment cases and a total of 5 hostile work environment cases. I am asking that you vote against this. It is not within the scope of the mayor to sexually harass and bully his employees. When the investigation was done by the city paid-for investigator, it showed that 19 out of 42 of the claims were substantiated just based on the most basic investigation without going under oath. You have a responsibility to the taxpayers, and John Valdivia cares nothing for them. In fact, he's expended $165,000 of his own money and now hopes that the taxpayers will carry that burden for him. And then, not only that, could he be more reckless in the fact that he is out hiring a temp agency for his re-election campaign and using the city seal as a method to recruit people into believing that helping him with his campaign as a canvasser will lead to a city position? That is illegal. So how much longer will we fuel the fire of an unethical mayor, of someone who cares nothing for the city and only for his own opportunity? If he threatens to sue, let him. Let the courts determine whether or not he's justified. Because in 2013, the mayor of the city of San Diego requested that his legal fees be paid for his 7 accusations of sexual harassment by his employees. There was a unanimous decision to vote against that, and the council decision was upheld. Now's the time for you guys to do the same thing. Do not waver, because there is no way you are going to come back to the taxpayers and justify anything other than a no vote. I'm asking you guys to do the right thing. And I'm also asking that you guys censure the mayor on this sexual harassment charge. It is time for this city to separate itself from what the mayor has done. Thank you.
Are there any online?
I have an ADA accommodation.
Okay, go ahead, please.
This is from Mr. Tim Duran. Council, you have a job to do for the city, not John. You work for the city, not John. You work for the resident, not John. We voted for you to do your job, not John. Vote no to paying the mayor's legal fees. You censored him. Now make good on your word. Vote no on paying the legal fee. It would cost you, the city, and the residents that will be taking money out of everyone's pocket, including yours. Vote no.
Will that conclude all? Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
concludes.
All right, well, at this time, we'll just recess and proceed on to closed session. I call to order this joint regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council, and the Mayor and City Council acting as the successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency of the City of San Bernardino. Let's see. We have, I'd like to invite Father Leonard D. DePasquale from St. Bernardine Catholic Church to please lead us in the invocation. And if you could also as well lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin with a very brief quote from Holy Scripture about love. It's from Paul's first letter to Corinthians, which was a community that had a lot of bickering and fighting. No reflection on us, of course. Paul writes, "Love is patient, love is kind, it is not jealous, love is not pompous, it is not inflated. It is not rude, it does not seek its own interests. It is not quick-tempered, it does not brood over injury, it does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails." That's from 1 Corinthians 13. It may seem strange in this setting to talk about love, as when we carry on our civic affairs, there's usually the tendency to defend one's position and try to prevail over others with our own point of view. But truly, if we are thinking in the best interests of the community, we ought to show patience and humility with the virtue of love as God speaks to us through his Apostle Paul. Ultimately, if we want the best for our community, we must make effort to dialogue sincerely, listen attentively, and share our own views with openness to others. And so we pray. O God, giver of all good things, you've given us our life, our nation, and our city of San Bernardino. Help us to do what is right for our people, to act with justice, to be concerned for one another, and for those who are marginalized and whose voices are often suppressed. Teach us to love as you love us. Bless our city leaders and all of us who share in the governance of our community, working for peace and dignity for all. We ask this in your holy name. Amen. Thank you for your attention to this prayer, and now I invite you to join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father Leonard. Ms. City Clerk will proceed now with roll call, please.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
Councilmember Charette. Councilmember Reynoso. Councilmember Calvin.
Present.
Councilmember Alexander.
Here.
Mayor Valdivia is absent tonight. And Mayor Pro Tem.
Here, present. Ms. City Attorney, is there anything to report from closed session?
We do not have any reportable action this evening.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then we'll go ahead at this point, proceed over to recognizing the city manager's report. Ms. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. I will be presenting the city manager update this evening on behalf of Robert Field. If we could queue up the PowerPoint presentation, please. I might have the power. I'll try to. Thank you, Marcus. All right, let's get started. So this month we're celebrating Black History Month with a variety of activities throughout the city. To name a few, at Delman Heights Park, we will be offering a science experiment in honor of George Washington Carver, one of the most prominent scientists of the 20th century, along with a craft project honoring Garrett Morgan, the inventor of the traffic light, along with a variety of programming throughout the city, including themed art projects, music, activities in honor of Black History Month. We are also celebrating the opening of Crest View Terrace, which features 184 beautiful apartment homes. Council members Calvin and Alexander attended the grand opening. And speaking of council members Calvin and Alexander, they were named to the SCAG Housing Policy Leadership Academy, which is a 10-month program on how to advance and increase the availability of affordable housing. So, new additions to our city staff. We officially welcomed Officer Trayvon Davis on January 27 when he was sworn in as a police officer with our city. Mr. Davis graduated from San Bernardino High School and previously worked in the capacity of police intern and police cadet for our department. Wind events. 6 city crews from the Public Works Department responded to wind events throughout the city on January 21st and the 22nd. The pictures up there show before and after shots of the team's effort. This slide underscores our response priority during a wind event, which is first to address hazards from our primary roads and streets, second, neighborhood streets, third, parks and city property, and then finally, depending on the cleanup effort and the level of work that has to go into it, we might move hazards to the side and then come back and pick up the debris. And then finally, to report down trees, street lights, or debris, you can call SB Direct. For down power lines, please call 911. And if you notice any trees overhanging or down near power lines, please contact Southern California Edison. In other city news, we will be offering free mammograms on February 12th and the 25th to women 40 years or older of low household income or no insurance. Also, while supplies last, we have COVID test kits are still available throughout different city sites. Additionally, the Arrowhead United Way has opened a free testing center on Mondays and Tuesdays from 8 to noon. Our last slide, and additional information under other news and notes. The Animal Services Department received over $3,000 in donations in memory of Betty White. We would like to thank the support from our community. We are grateful both from staff and from our animals. And then finally, the library did implement a temporary pause for in-person programming. And the programs affected are story times, crafts, and homework help, but we are continuing with regular services and business hours. This concludes the PowerPoint presentation on the regular MCC updates, and we have also prepared a year-end recap video that we would like to share. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa. That concludes the city manager's update.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Assistant City Manager. You know, it's easy to forget some of the great things that we've done throughout the course of the year, so this is great to have this. Where could we find a link to this again? Would it be on the city's website?
On our city's website.
All right. And would it be possible to share it on social media too if others wanted to?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll go ahead and proceed over to recognize council members for any announcements. Councilmember Sanchez.
No announcements right now. Thank you.
Councilmember Ibarra.
No announcements.
Okay. Councilmember Charette.
Thank you. I have congratulations to my colleagues, council members Calvin and Alexander, for being named to those SCAG Housing Policy Leadership Academy. Congratulations. And housing is so critical in this community, and we're behind according to the state, and we need to do all we can to provide all the housing necessary to sustain this community. And then the only other announcement I have as far as things going on in the Fourth Ward, unless I've missed something, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. on February 10th is the Wildwood Park Neighborhood Association meeting. They always have a very large turnout. It's at Lutheran Church, 5050 North Sierra Way. That's clear up at the end of Sierra Way, 5050 North Sierra Way. 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. on February 10th. That's a Thursday night. Everybody's welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Reynoso.
I'll just be brief. Sorry for being late again. Got some exciting things on this agenda. I'm sure a lot of you are here for some of the hot topics on it. I wanted to inform the community, well, first that we're discussing a concrete plan, finally. And so we'll discuss, some areas that I've flagged for a while. And I just want to ensure the community that I'm going to bring back the Oxbow cement pile for a vote because litigation and the behind-the-scenes stuff isn't working anymore. And so we're way beyond that. The winds are insane. I wish I could have shown some pictures of what happened to the Fifth Ward. I live in the Fifth, obviously. Whoa. Whoa. And so I just wanted to ensure people that that is happening and that there's a lot of stuff moving in the city, even though it may not look like it. I appreciate the presentation. There's a lot more stuff that happens behind the scenes, and I feel like because city government is so slow, we don't actually get to acknowledge it. And so that deserves a hand clap, but not the loudest one. And I agree with you, because now it's time to actually focus on things that are coming up forward. And I honestly look forward to hearing some of the public comment today, because we need to be informed by you on some of these discussion items in particular. And I want to ensure that the street vendor community knows that with the American Rescue Plan conversation that we're going to be having, we've been having conversations, and I wish the city manager himself was here, because there's a recommendation to fund something that is through the Aspen Institute. And it looks, to me, I'll be totally frank with you, it looks like a pat on the back for ourselves, like, oh, great, we're having this institute come and present in the city, and we're having an incubator for minority business owners and how to start it and create spaces for it. But it doesn't include education and similar programming that will rectify a lot of the issues that both sides of the spectrum feel in regards to the street vending community. There has to be solutions around this, and I have some recommendations tonight, and I hope that maybe you'll agree with some of them, but I really look forward to sitting down with you in those rooms so that we can really discuss this, hammer this out in a legal format, and get this done. Because I'm not ignorant to all the community coming up here, and it's not just the people, and it's not people being painted as outsiders. People for all types of topics come to that dais right there, and the opportunity for us, some might see it as a con, but it's a pro, absolutely, and that's why I signed up for the job, is to hear from you and feel the pressure from you so that we actually do something. And so we're here to do that tonight. If no other time, this is an agenda. I wish there were more people here, because some of the discussion items I feel like should have been broadcasted across the entire region, but they're not. And so I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and proceed on with Councilmember Calvin.
Good evening, San Bernardino. Glad to see you all tonight. I would like to say Happy Lunar New Year and also Happy Black History Month. And so I would like to give you a fact. In honor of Black History Month, I would like to honor Councilwoman Valerie Pope Ludlam. She was the first Black councilwoman to the dais here in San Bernardino, and I thank her for all of her sacrifices, and may she forever rest in peace. I'd like to thank Representative Pete Aguilar for bringing Madam Vice President Kamala Harris here to tour our wildfire areas, our burn areas, so that we can be more proactive on how we can keep all of those fires down to a minimum. So very grateful because she did come here to allocate funds as well. And I want to thank Councilman Alexander for all of his work and efforts, and all of the city staff who assisted in putting together the memorial for Dr. Margaret Hill. It was very, very beautiful. I thank you, Council Member. I wanted to congratulate Officer Trayvon Davis, San Bernardino High School alum from the West Side. We are very, very proud of him. He is a mentor to the youth at Acoma Unity Center. He's a wonderful, wonderful young man, and he's going to do great things here in the Force. And he's an example, too, for all of the youth coming up. I want to congratulate and thank Lutheran Services for all their dedicated service that they bring to our unsheltered community members here in San Bernardino. I was given a tour of their facilities. They're going to be expanding so that they can be able to house more of our unsheltered and those that are in need in our community, and I appreciate that. And as our Assistant City Manager already mentioned, I did attend the third phase grand opening at Crestview Terrace, the old Waterman Gardens, with Councilmember Alexander. And so housing is something that we know, as Councilman Charette just mentioned, that we are in dire need of. And so I'm very grateful to have been appointed and accepted to that cohort with SCAG, because we're going to be making sure that San Bernardino is going to be getting the resources that we need in order to continue to build all types of housing, because that is what we need here in our city. To invest in our human capital is important. I also want to just give a shout out to Lieutenant Eddie Flores. He's being reassigned for 6 weeks, but I want everybody on the West End to know that we're still in very, very good hands. Lieutenant John Echeverria will be representing us for the next 6 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Councilmember Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just want to wish everyone a happy Black History Month and a happy Valentine's Day, because we won't see you until then. So husbands, do the right thing. I would like to thank Council Members Calvin and Council Member Charette and Councilman Reynoso, who we all attended the Dr. Margaret Hill Memorial that happened in Paris Hill, 66er Stadium. It was a really nice whole life celebration of life ceremony. I'd like to thank the city staff who went above and beyond to help send Dr. Hill home very proudly. You should be proud of your city staff, that they did a great job that you don't know about, things that happened that you don't know that they did. They did an excellent job. Also, I attended Arrowview Neighborhood Association. I spoke on them. Thank to Lieutenant Castro, who's helping me with a situation over there in the 7th Ward. He's doing a fine job. If he's listening, he's doing a great job. Keep up the good work. On February 12th, I'll be having my quarterly Chat and Chew. I have a quarterly Chat and Chew. It's February 12th. It'll be via Zoom, and it'll be put out on the normal social media channels. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, yes. Go
I
ahead.
left off something, if I may. I just wanted to give a shout out to Public Works. I had some lights out in the community in the 6th Ward, and made a few phone calls, and they were able to come out and get those lights on. And also very happy about the potholes that are being filled too. We appreciate it. I know that it's overwhelming, the amount of potholes that we have in this city, but just thank you for filling those that are on streets that are just highly traveled.
Mr. Kishta, I share the same sentiment. Thank you so much. I know that we asked not only your department, but every department to do so much more with the little resources they have. So thank you to all of you, to all of our staff. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Congressman Pete Aguilar for hosting the Mayor's and City Managers Roundtable to discuss the Infrastructure and Investment in Jobs Act recently, where we were able to come together, some of the cities in the region, to discuss some of our ideas, some of our needs as far as the future of infrastructure, and not only in our city, but in the region as well. We were also able to have a conversation about homelessness and how big of an impact it has on our city and on the region as well. So we were able to share many ideas as far as what is needed, and ultimately what we conclude is that we really do need to come together, not just as a city working alone, but in partnership with the state, the county, and other cities in the area as well. So that was one of the opportunities we were able to share. And then there are some other things that need to be done as far as funding and changing some legislation as well to allow cities and families to be able to address the issue of homelessness as well. So any other comments up here? Yes, Councilmember Reynoso.
Hey, Freddie, can you turn that mic off for me?
You know, we're just going to move over to public comments at this point anyway, so it's all right. At this time, public comments will be heard. Let's see, Miss City Clerk, do you have any announcements or anything?
Yes, in-person comments will be heard first, followed by remote public comments. If you are speaking remotely, please use the raise your hand feature to request to speak during public comment. Please mute any devices to avoid feedback while speaking and log off the Zoom session immediately after you speak.
Thank you. Okay, we have both sides opened up here, and I'll just name off a few. Please just start lining up here. We're going to start with Treasurer Ortiz. Dr. Ortiz, followed by Anel Ortega, followed by Jim Penman. Dr. Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Ben, you make my heart really happy talking about the Oxbow and bringing it back, because this has been a huge issue in the 5th Ward and it needs to be addressed. We know the mayor took $2,500 and dumped a pile of trash for a political contribution. It was wrong, and it's been wrong. And the city created false permits that they knew this thing posed a significant risk to the life, health, and safety of your residents. So thank you for bringing that forward. What we see in the video and what we're seeing in the community, especially with this American Cares Act, is huge. You're talking about a $9 million investment into Seacom Lake. You're talking about an $8 million into Nicholson Park. What the community fails to recognize is the entire budget for the Park and Recreation Department is $5.5 million in itself. And what we have to start doing is investing in what we value, because we don't. We look at what happened when we filed for bankruptcy in 2012. Everything stopped. A decade without investment into anything in our community, and we wonder why it looks the way it does. It's incumbent upon us to change, to progress, to evolve, because if you don't evolve, you are like the dinosaurs. You die. And when I'm looking at what you guys are doing with agenda item number 5, which is the elimination of an elected mayor and putting it into an appointed position, I'm fully in favor of this. And I'll tell you why. Regardless of the fact that I am running for mayor, democracy is democracy. And allowing people to choose what type of governance they want is the essence of it. That is what we are asking you to do. And it shouldn't have to take residents collecting thousands and thousands of signatures just to get something to vote on. They should be able to come to the 7 of you collectively and say, hey, this is an institution we would like to look at. You guys are the council. We made a council manager form of government for a reason. And tonight, anybody who has any hesitation about what our city would look like or how it would operate, this is exactly what would happen if we had a council manager form of government with an appointed mayor. The 7 of them would sit up there, they would take votes. There would not be a mayor that could potentially get in the way and veto the action of 4 council members versus 3, because that's the antithesis of democracy, is stopping the majority of elected officials in our city from implementing policy. So I appreciate that you guys are taking this to the people, because that's what we asked you to do. This didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened over the course of a lot of conversations. So keep up what you're doing as a group, because that's the only way the city of San Bernardino will be able to revive itself after 44 years of economic decline. 1977 cannot be the best year that this city has ever seen in the last half a century. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Anel Ortega, followed by Jim Penman, and then followed by Frank Audi.
Good evening, council members. I emailed you all last Friday regarding my house vibrating and rattling, and I'm here today to introduce myself to you. As I mentioned to you in my email, I'm seeking your support to approve resources to fix Kendall Drive and Mason Road's intersection and temporarily restrict trucks from driving through Kendall Drive between Palm and University to stop my house from vibrating and rattling. In January 2021, I submitted a CRM as my house vibrates and rattles when trucks, buses, and any other vehicle drive through the damaged road and the poorly patched utility trenches. My CRM was closed, alleging that the issue was resolved, but it was not. My house continues to vibrate and rattle. The only thing that was fixed was the cement around the manhole and they poorly patched utility trenches, which made things worse. These poor fixes left invisible speed bumps, making all vehicles bounce off the road and hitting it with all their weight, creating vibrations and loud bangs, which I strongly believe are causing my house to vibrate and rattle. As you know, Kendall Drive is not properly maintained, nor is it designed to carry 5, 10, 15, or 20-ton vehicles, which are causing more damage to the road, not to mention the pollution that they're creating, the noise pollution they create. It has been a year since I initially brought this to the attention of Public Works. How much longer do I need to wait before this gets addressed properly? I suggested temporary solutions, from restricting trucks from Kendall Drive to bringing out a geological engineer to assess the road and determine the root of the vibration, as Public Works does not believe they are real. Public Works has stated that my proposed solutions require council approval, but as far as I know, none of this has been brought to your attention. Last Thursday, like many other nights, I was awakened by what seemed to be a parade of trucks driving east of Kendall Drive between 10:20 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. I couldn't sleep as my whole house was vibrating and rattling. For over 2 hours, my house felt like the epicenter of a 4.0 earthquake. My son, who's 6 years old, woke up crying and scared from the truck noise and the vibrations. He asked me if the house was going to fall apart. All I want is for my home to be a place where my family and I can rest peacefully. I've lived here for 25 years and in my current home for over 20 years. I want to stay here. However, the vibrations and rattling to my home are making this unbearable and highly impacting my family's quality of life and our physical and mental health. I invite you, as I have invited people, staff from Public Works, to come to my house to witness for yourself the vibrations and rattling, as I feel my concerns are not being taken seriously. I've been in contact with Councilman Reynoso, and he has been very supportive in this. And I'm here to seek your support and look forward to working with you to resolve this as soon as possible. I've taken many videos and I can share with you so you can see the vehicles bounce off the ground and road. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Mr. Jim Penman, followed by Frank Audi. Mr. Penman.
Jim Penman, 221 East Marshall Boulevard. People of San Bernardino are battle weary. We have been through a lot. Bankruptcy, homelessness, public safety concerns, slow police response times, potholes, the Oxbow pile, empty SBX buses, mismanagement, failed leadership. And the people are ready, and they are deserving of the type of leadership that is going to work for them. The people are focused on the issues just mentioned, while the current council majority is focused on trying to convince the voters to give up their right to vote to elect their own mayor while increasing the power of the city council. There are those who will be voting tonight who believe that most voters want to surrender their right to vote for their own mayor in exchange for a mayor chosen by 7 members of the city council, or only 4 in the case of a divided council. And only a sitting council member would be eligible to be mayor. How many thousands of taxpayer dollars will this election cost, only to have the voters reject this ill-advised charter amendment? I could not find that amount in the backup on tonight's meeting. It will be a lot of money. Will it be $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, $150,000? Should the council not know how much this election will cost before they vote to put the measure on the ballot and to incur that debt? Apparently, the cost does not matter to those who will vote yes on this agenda item. And I asked the council, what are your solutions for the homeless problems, for the Oxbow dump? How are you going to increase the number of police officers in our city so police response time is measured in minutes, not in hours? Should you not wait until those problems are solved, or at least until there are reasonable plans in place, before you ask the voters to give up their right to vote and simultaneously increase the power of the City Council? There are tested and proven solutions to each of these problems, and we intend to implement those solutions as soon as the voters have the opportunity to choose their own new, competent leadership. Be on notice, council members. The days of failed San Bernardino leadership are numbered. Business as usual is no longer acceptable. The voters want change, and they will have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Frank Audi, followed by Claudia Bautista, and then last name is Milan, first name is Fanelli. Frank Audi.
Good evening, everybody. We've been living in the city for over 25 years, and I would admit that was a bumpy ride most of the time. Lately, we've been terrorized by a group that came in. We bought our unit, our condominium in the south side, and somebody came in and drew a line all over 79 units that comprise the homeowner association called Loma Linda Homeowner Association. They used that line to trap our cars and tow it, charge us hefty fees to retrieve it, and then eventually they towed my work truck. I'm a contractor, and they send it to pick apart and dismantle it. The last time they took my car, I stopped parking behind my garage, and since then it's been like about 5 months. Everybody else, we have 79 units. Everybody else park there, if they want to. But for us, as soon as we park, then they come nighttime and pick up our cars. And I've been complaining to the police. I've been here so many times. And eventually, a police officer go there and write a police report, which I think it was a slap on the face. I just wrote a letter to the city council and to the city police. All I wish that they just read the letter, and then everything else will be okay. And if they think that I'm right, I just wish that they come and send somebody to remove the graffiti that says fire lane so they don't use it anymore. And also just get some legislation to find out these two companies, what they can do, what they cannot do, because I call so many people, including the council, the San Bernardino County, and everybody says, nobody has jurisdiction over these people, including, I call even some people on the state. Everybody said, no, nobody has jurisdiction on the two companies, so you got lost there. So thank you for even reading my letter. And
Thank you, Mr. Audi. I received your message. I'll drive through that area and take a look this weekend, sir. Thank you. We have Claudia Bautista, followed by Fanelli, followed by Jesus Ontiveros.
Good evening, members of the council, city staff, and community members. My name is Claudia Bautista, Deputy Director with the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center. PEOC's mission is to empower low-wage immigrant workers across the Inland Empire. As I have previously mentioned in multiple city council meetings, on November 2nd, on the corner of Highland and Lincoln, about 20 to 25 day laborers and street vendors were targeted by a San Bernardino Police Department and code enforcement operation, where many of them were ticketed, some had their work vehicles impounded, and at least one of them was arrested. Since we have been here multiple times asking city leaders to meet with us and discuss what happened that day or that morning, how to undo the wrongs, and to discuss long-term solutions that take into consideration the dignity of our workers. 3 months have passed, and unfortunately, the workers are still waiting to see any concrete resolution to their concerns. Therefore, we've had to garner the attention of local, regional, and national stakeholders who are monitoring the situation and want to see a dismissal of the outstanding tickets, reimbursement of the fines that were already paid, and for a commitment from city leadership to sit with us and discuss long-term solutions like a worker center. Most recently, the ACLU of Southern California submitted a letter in conjunction with Public Counsel and Endelon explaining the ways that the November 2nd operation was unconstitutional, in addition to the free speech retaliation conducted by Officer Castro. This weekend, together with multiple local organizations, including the Immigrant Coalition for Immigrant Justice, Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice, Warehouse Workers Resource Center, ICIU, and Endelon, the National Day Labor Organizing Network, we held a 12-kilometer walk to highlight the work of immigrant communities in San Bernardino who are fighting to ensure their rights are respected. The event was live streamed on Facebook to allow for a COVID-safe event that could be seen by audiences well beyond San Bernardino. So that people can know the way that the city of San Bernardino and the San Bernardino Police Department treat our community members. Before the holidays, we had gotten to a place of dialogue. A few of the council members have shown interest in at least sitting at the table with us to discuss long-term solutions. We're here to hold you accountable on behalf of our members who were unfairly targeted and are still trying to figure out how to come up with the money to pay for the hundreds of dollars in fines that they were unexpectedly faced with, while others have already paid, some over $1,000, to regain access to their work vehicles in order to be able to continue to work and feed their families. We're here to discuss solutions. We just need your attention and your time so that our members can feel like their voices are being heard and their situation is being given the proper attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have, is it Fanelli?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Fanelli,
you.
followed by Jesus Ontiveros.
Thanks. Good evening, members of the council, city staff, and community members. My name is Fanelli Milan. I live in San Bernardino County. I work in this city, and I'm also a community organizer with the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center. I do outreach at the informal day labor site on Highland and Lincoln. And I'm here again to speak on behalf of the 25 day laborers and street vendors who were cited in the November 2nd police raid. ACLU, Endelon, and Public Counsel have submitted a letter to you and the San Bernardino Police Chief asking to stop criminalizing our most vulnerable community. Together with our allies, we continue to ask for their tickets to be dismissed. We would like to meet with all of you to discuss how some of the American Rescue Plan funds can go towards developing a worker center for both street vendors and day laborers in our city. And if it's really true that the best is yet to come, make sure that everyone, including our essential workers, such as Jesus right here, is part of it too. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Jesus Ontiveros, followed by Marisol Alvarez, and the penultimate speaker, Mrs. Negrete. Señor Jesús, por favor.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Jesús. Les pido al señor concejal, a todos los presentes, un centro de apoyo para nosotros los jornaleros, ya que nosotros somos el apoyo de nuestras familias, que es el único sustento. Y les pedimos que perdonen también los tickets que nos han dado y devuelvan los vehículos que han decomisado de nuestros compañeros. Gracias.
Good evening, Mayor, and everyone here tonight. My name is Jesus Ontiveros. Once again, we're asking for your support in establishing a worker center, as well as dismissing the citations and releasing all the impounded vehicles. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Next, we have Marisol Alvarez, followed by Mrs. Negrete, and concluding with Joseph Mora. Marisol.
Hi, thank you, and good evening to everyone. My name is Marisol, and I have lived in San Bernardino for the past 4 years. I actually chose to live here. I could have lived anywhere in Southern California, anywhere that I wished. But for whatever reason, my heart was for this city because I think it's a beautiful city and that it has so much potential. I am proud to be living in San Bernardino, and I am committed to this city. I have always stood firm by my decisions, and I have a great eye for diamonds in the rough. San Bernardino is a diamond in the rough. That being said, and with all due respect to everyone sitting here, it begs the question, why is our city in such a disgraceful state? I can see the video that you guys put up there, and I'm glad that all of you guys pat yourself on the back for whatever it is that you're doing, but I have a business here and I live here, and the state of this city is unacceptable, and there is absolutely no excuse for the way that it is. I just can't imagine that you guys sleep at night knowing that you are the leadership of this city. You are a county seat. I speak for all the people who do not have the courage or the ability to speak for themselves. We deserve better. We deserve better. We have the resources, and I don't know why it is that they're being wasted or what they're being wasted on. I am with Jim Penman. I agree with you, Mr. Penman. He's my neighbor. And do you not believe that the people of San Bernardino, that the constituents of this city deserve more from their city leadership? Why is it that our neighboring cities, Redlands, Highland, Colton, for God's sake, Rialto, are doing better than us? What is it that we do not deserve from our leadership? People have lost faith. There is low morale. People are ashamed to say that they live here. The reason that they buy homes here is because they can't afford them anywhere else. And that is not a proper reason for anyone to buy property. I promise you, as there is a God in heaven, that San Bernardino will overcome the challenges that it has faced. Someone just said that 44 years in decline, it's criminal. It's criminal, and the people that have been in leadership in the city should be put in jail, including the mayor who's not here. He should be ashamed of himself. And you guys started this meeting 15 minutes late? This is the example that you give us? You should be here half an hour early, and everyone should have a comment. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. We have Mrs. Negrete, and wrapping up with Joseph Mora. Mrs. Negrete.
Good evening, council members. I want to bring up to your attention again the property that's on Arden in Highland. That's a city property. And since there's different departments from the San Bernardino Police Department to other departments that are going after property owners or anyone that's trying to earn a living, why don't you start by taking care of your own property? Because that property, I have brought it up to your attention since last year, overgrown weeds, trash, and homeless. So before you come after us, how about you hold yourself accountable? Another one, you allowed to have your other interim chief forever to increase his retirement, and now we have the same thing. So when are you going to get serious and engage on having a permanent chief of police? Because this whole thing of increasing somebody's retirement, it's not working for us, the taxpayers. It's just not. In addition to this, we have Burtec, who last year increased our fees twice in 1 year. We continue to see San Bernardino Police Department that puts their photo ops when they're going out there and cleaning, which is great that they're out there helping the community, but that's not their job. That's not what, if you go into California Transparent and you look at what our officers are earning, it's too much money to have them cleaning up streets. So how about if you engage Burtec into an MOU and see if this can be done without police officers, because not every single site that they go and clean has homeless. And my understanding is that that has to do with safety. They were bringing them in because of safety. The last pictures that they put, there were no homeless. It was just alleys that were dirty, and they went out there and they cleaned them up. So how about if you work on an MOU with Burtec? And regarding the Oxbow, let's not forget that that is not the only place that's had a pile of cement. 20th and State repeatedly has had piles of cement, and it gets grinded on site. There are homes around there. Robertson's plant, right next to a high school, it has been there for many, many years. So if cement dust is really that dangerous to somebody's health, how about if you start caring about the high school students who are there Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 5:30, because yeah, they are there practicing. So if you're going to do the narrative that is dangerous, start with those. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have here Joseph Mora. Mr. Mora, please.
Good evening, Councilman Pro Tem. My name is Joseph Moore. I've been here about 15 years, and I'd like to mention that my son, he enlisted into the Marine Corps at the age of 17, and within 2 years he received his wings, so now he's a crew chief, part of the squadron with the United States Marine Corps. The second I'd like to talk about is lights in the intersection that are become dangerous. I'm actually a survivor as far as an accident that happened over a year ago. The person who was driving was under the influence and hit me about 60 to 70 miles an hour. So I survived that. The other issue that I'd like to discuss is organized gang stalking. Organized gang stalking that my family and I have been a victim for over a decade now. The perpetrator that lives close to our home is part of this. And we've been stalked day and night. Our phones have been hacked. Our computers have been hacked. 2 of our pets have been killed. Cars have been vandalized. Homes have been vandalized, broken into. And all the calls that I've put into the police department, nothing has been done. I was working with a lieutenant for over 2 years. She's then now been removed from our Northwest region. So no more communication. I don't want to start all over with somebody all over again. But I would like to shine some light on this organized gang stalking because it could save someone else's life. What the whole routine for this gang stalking program is to get them incarcerated, get them hospitalized, mentally institutionalized, or commit suicide. If nobody knows about this, look it up. Organized gang stalking, you may help somebody and listen to them, especially your constituents that could be facing this problem because it is very big. And my family and I, like I said, for over a decade have been victim of this because of a perpetrator who is a former probation officer and has been given, I would say, probably the green light because of his past history. But I could get back to the intersection. If you can delay a second or two, you can probably save a life because a month later after my accident, a family of 4 was killed on Kendall and University on Thanksgiving night. So thank you, and good luck this year, and Happy Lunar New Year.
Thank you. Ms. City Clerk, you may please proceed with any written comments.
We actually have 2 remote speakers.
Okay, please.
Terry Boykins, if you can please unmute yourself and address the council, you have 3 minutes.
Great, thank you. Terry Boykins, Project Fighting Chance, 1263 Union Street in San Bernardino. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, I want to say thanks for taking this time with Project Fighting Chance. I did drop off earlier information about an event that is going to be held at Project Fighting Chance on the 24th of February. And as most of the community, as well as the City Council knows, Project Fighting Chance for its boxing accomplishments. I want to bring attention to our enrichment program, which we are very active in the lives of young people, and you start talking about diversion and reducing childhood violence and aggression. This is what Project Fighting Chance really was recognized for as the nonprofit of the year for the state of California in 2020. And with that, as we look at the issue of sex trafficking in particular, which is one of the flyers that I dropped off earlier, we are going to bring attention to this issue by inviting young ladies to join us at the boxing gym. We want to also invite members of the council to come and visit Project Fighting Chance on a non-boxing note. We do a lot of accomplishments around the United States. We represent the San Bernardino city significantly because of our competition. But that's not all we do. And we do have some very dynamic young people that have been engaged with activities that, I want you to see how their lives have been changed as a result of participating in Project Fighting Chance. Had they not been in that boxing gym or in that enrichment room, they'd be out in the streets. And we are going to be in need of resources to continue this effort of diversion away from the streets, away from some of the activities that I'm hearing shared. I think if you come and let the young people know how much you care about what this city has to offer them, you're going to get a citizen for life and a taxpayer for life in this community. That's one of the things that we want to share with you. The other thing is Project Fighting Chance in the non-boxing side has captured the attention of industry around the country, and particularly the construction industry, which we actually met with today. Build California, as you know, that the anticipated job value of the construction trade in California this year is estimated at $1.3 trillion. And we are working very closely with diversity, equity, and inclusion to talk about the future labor force and what is the social emotional condition in the state of our youth today with regards to their mental health and how they become productive workers in the future. This is what's happened at Project Fighting Chance, how we're moving forward, how we're forward thinking, and we have used our boxing platform to do that. So I want to say thank you. I want to invite all of you over to come and participate with us on the 24th, but also to come see the youth and what they're doing over outside of boxing. Thank you.
Natalie, if you could please unmute yourself and address the council, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. Good evening, council members. My name is Natalie Bautista. I'm speaking as a concerned community member and organizer with the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center, and in solidarity with the day laborers of San Bernardino in follow-up of the 12-kilometer Walk for Respect that they led this past Saturday. In fact, Jesus, who spoke earlier, led the walk. A walk calling for dignity and respect, calling for a stop to enforcement actions, calling for pardoning and reimbursement of tickets and impounds, calling for long-term investment from the city, calling for a worker center in San Bernardino, and frankly, calling for a call to talk accessible and long-term solutions. The 12-kilometer walk included community members who spoke to different issues they face at the hands of city leadership and enforcement at 6 different stops, including the ICUC office, the San Bernardino Police Department, City Hall, Encanto Park, and Sherrells Park, the Muscoy vendor site, and finally culminating at the Home Depot where day laborers wait for work. We did want to give a special shout out to the Acoma Unity Center for opening their doors and facilities during our stop at Sherrells Park. They have a beautiful center with the gorgeous mural if you haven't checked it out, and they're just some amazing people doing amazing work. A reminder that our city and issues, our community issues, and fights are intersectional and interconnected. Day laborers, street vendors, the youth, all integral members of our community who shouldn't have to be asking for respect and dignity from our city's leadership or enforcement agencies. Let's put the health and safety of our community first. Thank you and have a good night.
I have one ADA accommodation email to read. This is from Mr. Tim Duran. It says, I fully support the ballot initiative to eliminate the elected position of the mayor. We need you, council, to vote yes. Show that you are in control. Please, as a resident, I encourage you to do your job. Vote yes on item 5. This has been a long time coming, so get to work and vote yes. That concludes public comment.
Thank you. Before I proceed, if I could get a kind member of the audience to just turn off the mic. Thank you, Mr. Penman. We'll go ahead and move on to our appointments. I invite a motion to approve the following of Mr. Alfred Girarte to the Arts and Historical Preservation Commission, and if it's the council's wish to combine them also to the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission as well.
Move approval.
Second.
Ms. City Clerk.
Councilmember Charette, your vote is needed. Items 2 and 3 are approved. Five yes votes and 2 abstentions with Councilmember Reynoso and Councilmember Calvin.
Okay. Motion passes. Councilmember Ibarra, do you have a comment? Or?
Yes, I just want to point out to our city clerk, if we can further clear up an address on pages 15 and 24 for this commissioner. Not sure if that's business address or home address. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point, we'll go ahead and proceed on to discussions. I will remind the council that I will be going off of your names on the screen. So if you do have something if you'd like to make a comment, please use your speaker button there, and I'll just go off of the names on the screen. Thank you. So item number 4.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. The City Clerk Department is preparing to enter into the election season, and before the candidate nomination period begins, we are bringing a residency policy for your consideration. The residency policy is in alignment with Section 301, subsection B of the city's charter, eligibility, which states those elected shall have been qualified electors and residents of the respective wards for a period of at least 30 consecutive days immediately preceding the date of filing their nomination papers for office. In the past, city council and mayoral candidates were required to sign an affidavit under penalty of perjury. With the proposed policy, in addition to signing the affidavit of residence, they will need to provide a minimum of 2 documents to meet the residency requirement. The accepted documents are outlined in the policy. The policy would also require current council members and the mayor to provide proof of residency once a year to the city clerk to ensure they continue to live in the area they represent. The policy will increase transparency in the nomination process for the local elected office and continue proof of residency throughout the elected officials' terms. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
I move for approval.
Was that a move for approval? I second.
I'm sure people are going to have questions or comments, so we'll just wait here till we clear the screen.
I only see Councilmember
Okay, well then
Ibarra
we'll just
on
go
the speaker queue.
by hand, I guess. Does anybody have any comments, statements, anything regarding this item? Councilmember Sanchez.
Just to remind any colleagues, I guess we're going off the screen, which is a good idea, so there's no one cutting off anyone else. I would just call for the question. I think there isn't really much discussion on this.
I had my hand up too, but took it out.
Okay, Councilmember Ibarra, if you've clicked on your speaker and it's not up there, just please wave me down.
I had it was just to move to approve, but
Okay.
I took it out.
Oh, it actually shows on here. Okay. This is different. I just want to make some comments. So the requirement is to have 2 of those items, so it would be the lease agreement and I think part of it was also maybe something from the DMV or something to do with the utility bill. My reservation with that is that many times, and especially in the city and many other cities as well, we have a very large renting population, and sometimes what ends up happening with renters is that their utilities are tied into their rent. And so many times they don't actually have a bill under their name. It's tied into their rent. And so sometimes that rent or that utility, the landlord pays for it. So that's one area of concern that I have. Another area of concern too is, and I know this now because I have younger nieces and nephews who, look, when I was 14, 15, 16, I was eager to drive. I couldn't wait to get my driver's license and start driving, getting a car. But in my conversations with some of them, it seems as though some of them just don't have an interest in driving for whatever reason, or they're taking public transportation. Unfortunately, and I know in this city, with many cities, a lot of people have to rely on public transportation. And so having to provide proof of registration or something from the DMV now restricts, it seems as though this is targeting kind of lower income individuals. And I don't want that to happen, where sometimes somebody could be renting and their utilities are tied into their rent, and they're relying on public transportation. I would be okay approving one of the items along with the ROV verification, but to have to now include 3 separate verifications, I have some reservation with that. So I just wanted to provide that to the council. I'm not sure if anybody else has any thoughts. I'm willing to say 1, maybe not 2, but those are just my thoughts.
Mayor Pro Tem, that's just one of the options provided. So there are 3 subheadings: proof of home ownership, rental property. There's proof of California motor vehicle registration with insurance, a utility bill, or other documents addressed or dated no older than 90 days and not less. So there are several options.
So eliminating, let's eliminate the utility bills, and let's eliminate any registration with the DMV. What would be the second in addition to the lease?
Under other documents with the current address dated no older than 90 days and not less than 30 days, school records or any official document issued by an accredited educational institution with the current address sealed by the school, a current pay check stub, or personnel record issued by the candidate's employer showing the candidate's current residence address, current homeowner or renter's insurance policy, current documents issued by any California court or federal court that lists the name of the candidate and the residence address, any original record issued by any state or national bank, state or federal savings association, trust company, industrial loan, state or federal credit union, or any institution or entity that has issued a credit card.
So there's plenty to choose from there. Again, I could rapid fire some of the other ones as well, like with banks. Some people rely on check into cash type of places, so they might not even have a bank. But anyways, we'll go ahead and move on to Councilmember Ibarra, please.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up. So on page 44, maybe we can change the verbiage. Proof of motor vehicle registration, maybe in their California ID registration. Because I know when I was a teenager, I got a California ID. And she did mention the other list. It would be helpful to have that longer list of possible documents attached to this item on page 44.
It's outlined in the policy.
Correct, it's in the policy, but for people who don't read our policies, for example, online, maybe that would be something of reference for them when they go into the city clerk and find out what documents they can present. That would be helpful for them
We can do a summary of the policy, and the policy will also be posted on the election website.
That would be the only thing, because if I were to read this affidavit of residence the way it is right now, I'd be like, oh, I probably don't qualify, but I know I do, but maybe some others would think that they don't. So that'd be helpful.
We'll add California ID.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Alexander.
City Clerk, it says if it's adopted tonight, do I have to give you my driver's license tonight?
You have until December 31st.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments, questions? All right, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote.
Motion passes 6-1 with Councilmember Figueroa voting in opposition.
Okay, thank you. Next item, number 5, charter amendment to eliminate the elected at-large mayor. If we may please have the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Figueroa, members of the City Council. As you are aware, on April 7th of last year, the City Council requested staff to prepare an overview of the process required to amend the city charter, including the possibility of changing to a part-time mayor. On May 19th of last year, the council received a report on the process and voted on a motion that, 1, directed staff to draft language for a ballot measure to eliminate the full-time elected at-large mayor. 2, take the necessary steps if the amendment passes, it take effect at the end of the current mayor's term. And finally, establish the process to elect a rotating mayor. The item you have before you tonight is placement of a charter amendment to eliminate the position of the elected at-large mayor on the ballot for the June 7, 2022 primary election. If the amendment passes, then at its second meeting in December of each calendar year, the council would select a mayor from one of its own members. The draft of the city charter is noted in attachment 2 in red line format. This concludes the background, and we can open it up for discussion.
Councilmember Reynoso.
This definitely started on a personal note. Wasn't my idea. I've been sitting with this for a long time. Sounds pretty wild, to be honest, at this point. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, just because we're part-time. We make $14,000 a year. Besides Councilman Alexander and Charette, who are retired, it's hard to be a council member with a full-time job. And so the idea, and it's hard to be one if you don't have a job. And so the idea of the city not being able to represent, like, let's say I got elected and I'm still making the same salary that I have, so therefore I still have my day job because I need to live. How am I supposed to be there at 10 a.m. for the opening of an event or the county seat and things like that? And although I'm not in opposition to putting anything on the ballot and putting it to the voters, because that's what we would be doing here if it's approved, the very uncomfortable conversation has to be had at the same time. What are we talking about in regards, if we're going to be rotating, we need more salary. And no one here, I would say, really is wanting to ask for a pay bump. Although it would be nice to be a full-time council member, that's not the way that this charter amendment is going to be worded. We would still be making the same money, which means we would still have a full-time day job, which means the city would be absent in a lot of places, or I risk losing my job by representing the city and having to be stuck with that option very often. And so, to be honest with you, I'm very uncomfortable now that it's here. It's very real, and I feel like we have too much power, even in putting it on the ballot. But I don't really know. I wish that this was a public hearing so that you could all line up at the podium and tell us how you feel about it. But I don't think I'm comfortable doing this, to be honest with you, because it's not coming with the salary bump, and we're not all going to be able to just quit our jobs and be full-time council members, and then one of us can actually afford to be the mayor. That's the reality here, right? This charter amendment, Assistant City Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't coming with a proposal to bump salaries.
No, but if you recall when we had the discussion of elected officials' compensation, you have the authority as an elected body to set the compensation while giving due consideration to the recommendations of the Elected Officials Advisory Compensation Commission, charged for the evaluation of the elected officials' compensation, to include, at this juncture, the mayor's salary, while you give due consideration, but ultimately it is the council's prerogative at the level that the compensation is set.
I'll yield. I'd like to hear the rest of my colleagues' thoughts on this.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Yes, just I heard one of the comments earlier. According to page 49 of the packet, the cost to put this on the ballot will cost the city $50,000. if we vote for it today. Also, there is a hearing to review the decision made by us, by the public, before March 21st of 12 p.m. So I just wanted to point that out, that it is in the packet, and that is on page 54.
Okay, I have no other speakers or Councilmember Charette, followed by
Yeah.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you very much. I brought this forward, and it's been reported in the paper. There's been a lot of discussion about it. I understand some of your concerns. One concern that would not necessarily impact you would be that you wouldn't have to accept the position if you weren't able to. We changed our charter to make this a strong manager council form of government. There's a cost associated with having a mayor. It's my opinion that, and we tried talking about the corporate paradigm a few years back, and then it kind of died. Actually, under this current mayor, that discussion died because he didn't want to have any part of operating like a corporation. And we are a municipal corporation, which essentially is a board of directors, the council, who can elect their own leader to essentially see over the meetings, preside over the meetings. Certainly, there's nothing that precludes a mayor pro tem or whatever we would call that person elected by the council from working with their colleagues. That's part of what we're trying to do, and part of what this city has not had for so long is a group of people that work together and respect one another and help one another to do the job that we do to represent the city. So in your scenario, if you were unable to attend something, you've got 6 other people that certainly could be helpful to do that. I also feel that our city manager, once we're up and fully staffed, should be more visual in the community and being out there somewhat as the CEO of this municipal corporation. So it's not taking away the voters' right. We have the right to put something on the ballot to save the petition, the initiative way. We can do that with 5 votes, which we had to get to this point. And it'll be up to the voters to vote whether or not they want a full-time elected mayor. Some of the proof that I think we did last meeting when we reduced the salary of the mayor, and that was done primarily because the responsibilities of the mayor have been so much reduced through the new charter. And as far as being at ribbon cuttings and events and things like that, I think all of us are pretty good about getting out in the public and doing that. And I think the most important thing we can show to the rest of the world, I like to say, or to the outside world, is that we are a group of leaders that are working together and collaboratively for the good of the community of this city. And we had a strong mayor years ago that hired and fired city managers and police chiefs and what have you. And we've changed that form of government to a manager form of government that has the authority, with our blessing and or oversight and our blessing ultimately, to operate. And that's the way the corporate world works. And so I obviously will support the idea. If it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. But I think that we're not taking away the vote from the people. In fact, we're giving them a vote based on a change that was made back in 2016 with the charter. And I think, with all due respect to the Charter Committee, there were some things left in that needed to be cleaned up or changed a little bit. And that's the attempt here. It really has, the mayor has really no authority anymore. Becomes kind of a figurehead and I don't know, this current mayor, he's not even here tonight, and has missed, I don't know how many events he's been at or missed. So I don't know what kind of representation we're getting from this current mayor, but this is not personal. This is about the individual. It's about the office. So those are my comments. I will be supporting the item. In fact, I'll move for approval.
Second. Thank you, sir. We have Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes, to address what one of my colleagues brought up, most of my colleagues here have attended more of the community events than our mayor has. And we've done that with $14,000 a year, while he's been making $120,000. So shooting this down, giving an option to the voters out there to look at this option, doesn't resolve our issue of our constant struggle between our responsibilities as a council member and our responsibilities to our family and to ourselves to make money. So shooting it down doesn't solve that issue. But if we pass this tonight and this charter amendment is approved by the voters, we now have an argument to take to the people that we are carrying a little bit more of that burden now shared amongst the 7 of us. And we can justify that increase if that's the argument you want to make. That it just seems very organic to me that if we want to broach that subject, this is how we do it. There was a comment made by one of the people in the public that San Bernardino is battle weary, and they're tired of the fighting that happens on the dais here, that happens every 2 weeks, that people get to watch at home on their televisions. A lot of that has to do with the dynamic here. We have a mayor that's elected by the public that really, in many ways, can't be touched by the rest of this council. And just like this council cannot single-handedly remove the mayor cannot remove any single one of these council members. So it creates this toxic environment where we can fight each other to death very publicly, but we can't take each other out. What we'll do here is we'll pick a leader from among the council, a leader of the council that works at the majority of the council's pleasure. It creates a different dynamic. I mean, I've been here for 3 years, and every year has proven to me that the mayor pro tem has done a better job of running these public meetings than the mayor himself. I think we have yet to see a case where the mayor pro tem is at odds and screaming and gaveling down the rest of the council. It doesn't happen. Sandra did a spectacular job. Juan is doing a spectacular job. I don't think there was any screaming when well, there might have been, but I am the exception to that rule. Basine, former council member Basine, also did a spectacular job, and I don't think anyone out there could disagree. We're showing you right now that there is a better way for us to conduct the city's business, and this will do that. And there's talk about, oh, well, it's going to cost us $50,000 to put up this election. I don't know what it's going to cost, but guess what? It costs us right now to have this at-large mayor who can't show up to most of the council meetings, shows up to less community events than the rest of this council. I will make that second to Councilmember Charrette's motion.
It was seconded by Councilmember Calvin.
Will that conclude? Yes. Okay. Next speaker, Councilmember Ibarra.
Okay, so now I'm going to bring on my community member hat that I had back a couple years ago before this came before the voters. I went to several of the community meetings. I remember San Gregorio, San Marino High School, and there was a third one that I went to, and it resonated across everybody in attendance at those charter review community meetings that they wanted to keep a mayor. That was something that the community wanted to keep. They didn't talk about rotating mayors. They didn't talk about deleting council members at all. They wanted to keep it as it was. That was something that the voters approved in November 2016. Now we're presented here at on page 49 saying that there's going to be an annual savings of $367,000 per year with the elimination of the elected at-large mayor. This was a question posed by the proponents or the supporters of the new charter review, who swore that the new charter would save thousands of dollars to the city. That was never given. That figure was never given to us. I'm glad that it's finally showing this, but I want a clarification from our staff. Is the $367,000 quoted here the cost for the mayor's office itself, or are there any additional costs that were included in that total?
It's the position plus the operating budget.
His staffing also included, correct? Okay. See, and that's something that us that were against the charter changes back in 2016 were asking the supporters of the new charter. Answers that we never got, and now it's being presented to us. But as I'm telling you right now, somebody who attended 3 of the community meetings back in 2016, it resonated across all the community members who were in attendance at those meetings that they wanted to keep their mayor. So I just wanted to share that for anybody who was here or not or attended to those meetings. I went there, and that's what the community asked for, and that's what the community voted for back in 2016.
Councilmember Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I hear and I listen to all my colleagues and respectfully. And Councilman Reynoso is correct. 5 of us have full-time jobs and 2 of us are retired, but I dare to say raising my granddaughter full-time is not retirement. As you see, I take her everywhere I go, and I can't. I don't see how we can go back and have a mayor rotating between us. Our mayor is, and I'm speaking of the office because I hear a lot of personal issues with this particular individual. There are bad presidents and there are good presidents. There are bad leaders. Leaders sitting everywhere that's listening to my voice. Everybody's worked with bad leaders and good leaders. We cannot make this personal. This is an office, just like we have our offices. Who is going to go to the mayor's conference if we can't go? Because we have full-time jobs. League of Cities, Southern California government. And I can go on and on and on and on where it represents the mayor. If we have a good person in that office, this would not be an issue at all. We have to stop making it personal. Reducing the salary is one thing. I understand that. But we are a city of approximately 236,000 people. We're the 18th largest city in California. We need someone out there that's going to be lobbying for us. I don't know if that's the correct word, but lobbying for us out there at a full-time job, getting the grants and other issues that we don't have time for. That's his job. He should be setting us up for success. Whoever's in that seat, whoever, male, female, boy, girl, needs to set us up for success. That's the job of that office. And I can't see us rotating that. But that's just my humble opinion. But I think we can do this job can be done if the right individual is in that seat. Thank you.
Councilmember Charette.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I humbly respect everything that my colleagues have stated. And I agree with a lot of something that each one has stated. But what I feel is being missed here, I really don't want the community to feel like we're taking your vote away, because you still have to vote whether or not to accept this and place it on the agenda, on the ballot or not. You still have to vote. But what you also must do is hold the staff here at the city and hold the council members accountable for being fiduciarily responsible. Reducing the salary of the mayor was the right thing to do. Why? Because the mayor of this city was making 3 times more than the average salary throughout the region. Now, we need to be mindful of exactly that. The mayor of this city, according to the charter it conflicts itself. It makes it very difficult, as Councilmember Sanchez mentioned, for the government that was elected, or the type of government that the people elected, meaning city manager, city council form of governing. You made it very difficult when you left all of these loopholes for the mayor to be able to operate within his purview. So we can't have it both ways. And that is what has actually happened throughout this year. And before. Well, maybe not before, because the current mayor had what was looked upon as control over the council, even though the voters voted for a city manager, city council form of government. So now when you have a council that is acting within their purview, within the charter, you see the conflict. So we can't have it both ways. We need to decide. There are other cities who are operating with a rotating mayor, process that have full-time jobs. We can address those issues, and we can address the salary of council members as well, because other cities pay their council members more than the city of San Bernardino does, with the amount of constituents that reside in the city as well. So there are a lot of things here for us to be able to talk about. It's not just about the money. And as Councilmember Reynoso stated, I would love to be able to work full-time for the city of San Bernardino, because I feel I would do my best work. Because it does require time. I'm still responsible for 31,000 people. And to be able to be attentive and not be the person, be the council member who is trying to take a kickback from every developer that comes through the city so that it compensates my salary here at the city, is the job. That is the one that I signed up for. So we are not trying to take away your vote. What we're trying to do is balance this charter. Make it to where if you voted for the council member, city manager form of government to work in the way that it can, as other cities do, then we cannot have or do not need to have a full-time mayor. As Councilman Sanchez stated, let's then add it all up. Either we're going to put some, because the charter stated that the mayor didn't even have to attend any meetings. Where's the logic? Something's missing. We need to adjust. As we grow, we must continue to adjust. And that is why tonight I am in support. Thank you.
Councilmember Charette, I believe you have a comment.
Ms. Calvin, you covered some of the things I was going to say for my final remarks. And the main thing I wanted to say is that there are a lot of cities in California, and particularly in this region, that operate exactly under that rotating or a mayor pro tem type of government, and they're doing quite well. Regionally, we like to compare ourselves to a lot of the cities regionally. But it seems as though we compare ourselves only when it's beneficial to us. And there are cities that are operating with a rotating type mayor pro tem or mayor, and they seem to get the job done. And I haven't really seen very many of my colleagues that I've worked with for many, many years now not have the ability to attend regional boards, regional meetings, and I just believe that we can be the voice for this city. We're elected, and we can be the voice for this city, and that we can get the job done with the support of the staff and the city manager, and some continuity in elected officials, and we're giving us a time. And I've been here the longest, and one of the problems that we've had here is that we've changed department heads, we've changed electeds, we've changed mayors, we've changed a lot of things, and there's never been a real continuity of a team effort to work for the betterment of this city. And I think that's what we're needing very desperately right now, is a real team of the 7 of us. And I believe that we have been showing that we're working well together. And I agree with the other comments. It seems that we get more done when we don't have a mayor here that's gaveling somebody down or taking charge. So again, those are my final comments. I'm going to call for the question.
Look, I guess if nobody else has any comments, I'll make some comments too. I can certainly see both sides of this coin. An argument can easily be made for heads or for tails. I completely understand the sides that Council Members Reynoso and Alexander made. And to Councilmember Ibarra's point, I do remember these meetings 6 years ago, and I do remember that being highlighted as well. It seems to be a little bit of a counter argument to say we no longer need a mayor, but then to still, within this whole thing, this whole package, say that we'll still have a mayor selected among the council to do the duties of that which the current mayor is supposed to be doing, I guess, according to the charter. And so it seems to be a little bit of a counter. It just doesn't make sense to say we don't need a mayor, but oh, by the way, we're still going to select one, and that just doesn't. It seems to be in opposition to what we're trying to do here. As far as the duties of the mayor, they have significantly changed, and of course, the salary of the mayor has been significantly reduced to hopefully meet what the duties of the mayor are. And so that's, look, I'm not opposed to having the people vote. I will not stand in the way of allowing the public to vote on this issue. But, I mean, is it advised to vote to eliminate your ability to select or to elect a future mayor and instead have an elected mayor replaced by one that's been selected by the council? So is it, a mayor elected by the people, or a mayor elected by the council? So again, it's never a good idea for the people to relinquish their right to vote on any position, whether it be mayor or any other position. I know that in the past we had an elected city attorney and city clerk and so on, but I don't know. It's just, but again, I'm not one to impede or get in the way of allowing the people to make that decision for themselves. So those are my only comments on that. Any other comments from the council members? If none, Ms. City Clerk will go ahead and take the vote.
Motion passes 4-2. Council members Ibarra and Alexander voted in opposition, and Councilmember Reynoso abstained.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and proceed with item number 6, the assignment of the American Rescue Plan funds. Ms.
Thank you.
Assistant City Manager, please, if we may have the report.
Our Director of Finance, Barbara Whitehorn, will be leading the discussion this evening.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. Thank you very much for letting me
talk through American Rescue Plan again. I know we've revisited this several times. I'm coming back to you tonight to discuss allocating additional funding to several areas that you all have directed staff that you wanted to see funding allocated to. So just for the public, because I know you all have seen this a number of times, but our allocation is actually about $77.6 million. I just kind of abbreviate here. The final rule was finally issued on January 6th. It is effective on April 1st, which means that funds that were obligated under the interim final rule, we can use the interim final rule until April 1st. It's not significantly different. There are just a few changes. Still basically the same opportunities that we have under the interim final rule. And again, funds must be obligated by December 31st of 2024. And spent by December 31st, 2026. I know one of the most important areas that I think I've heard from all of you is the Small Business and Nonprofit Grant Program. The ARPA Act, the American Rescue Plan Act, requires that there be negative economic impacts due to the pandemic. It can be operating or capital grants. If we do a maximum of $50,000, that limits our reporting burden as far as what we have to collect from the businesses or nonprofits that we distribute money to. We don't have to have a lot of burdensome reporting back from them, like we would normally with like a CDBG grant or something like that, where we have a tremendous amount of reporting we have to collect and then report back to the federal government. That's not required in this program for any grants of $50,000 or less, which in my opinion is fantastic, because that reporting for sub-grantees, as they're called, if it's over $50,000, is really quite burdensome when you look at federal grants. So in this case, we would be doing sub-beneficiaries, which these are called. There's all kinds of like specific federal terms for all of these things. And you all had expressed a desire for the grants to be between $5,000 and $35,000.
Negative.
I'm sorry, sir?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We said 10.
Oh, and I'm happy to adjust any of these numbers, so please let me know. Because 10, 5, I'm just happy with any kind of minimum, because we don't want to administer grants that are too little to have any positive impact.
Exactly. That's why we started at 10.
Yeah, and 10 is, I will write down 10 if that is the desire of all of council. Okay. So existing nonprofits and businesses would need to prove a negative economic impact, unless they are in areas or part of populations that have been deemed as having been disproportionately impacted, which means that they are either in a qualified census tract, which of course we've been over most of the city is in qualified census tracts, or are part of a minority population. Right, the fourth word's covered. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, a majority of our population is in qualified census tracts. So we do have a lot of opportunity to help businesses within our city. And a lot of businesses and nonprofits here did see significant economic impacts from the pandemic. And we will, of course, find ways of allowing businesses that are either not part of disproportionately impacted populations or in qualified census tracts to prove that they had an impact, whether with tax returns or some other way to show through business financial statements that they have a true impact. And then we are also allowed under the final rule to help startups that are disproportionately impacted, which is something we were not allowed under the interim rule, which gives us a lot more latitude. We were not allowed to do any assistance for startups or incubators, anything like that under the interim rule. That was specifically disallowed. Apparently enough people sort of badgered Treasury and said, this doesn't seem to align with what the administration, what the Biden administration was saying they wanted to do, that Treasury went back and said, okay, no, we're going to allow incubators, we're going to allow cities and counties to help disproportionately impacted communities to invest in new businesses and in entrepreneurs to develop new businesses, because they saw so many very small businesses go under during the pandemic. So they want to see some of those businesses kind of come back, or new businesses come back. And that's where the recommendation for the Aspen Institute, which helps to stabilize and grow Latino and Black-owned businesses in communities. And the recommendation of staff is to dedicate $4 million overall, with $3 million to a general fund for businesses and nonprofits, and $1 million to the Aspen Institute initiative, which would be an incubator, entrepreneur-focused. I don't know if Eddie can give more on that. I know Corey's not here to really talk about it, but he's really more on the Aspen Institute side than I am. But that's staff's recommendation, and we will come back to council with a more detailed plan of how we would specifically identify which businesses would qualify. But obviously, we would recommend that owners be in San Bernardino. ARPA says small businesses can be anything recognized under the Small Business Administration, which I think is far too big. I think theirs is like less than 500 employees and receipts under 5 million. That's big. I mean, I think that's pretty expansive. I think we should target the people who were truly impacted, smaller businesses that have really struggled, had to shut down. I think we know in this community, just living here, who was impacted. The other investments that we're recommending at this time are the Second Lake Park renovation. We did not receive the state grant that we had applied for this. And as you know, we've been working on it. Alex and his staff, like, huge shout out to them for the work they have done already. But this, of course, is a park that serves a much greater part of the community than where it sits, but it is located in a qualified census tract. It's a public outdoor recreation space, so it does qualify within the interim final rule and the final rule. So we are recommending moving that forward. Councilmember Sanchez had asked at a previous meeting that we reserve that, and I believe that got council support at the time, so we're bringing that forward again. And then Nicholson Park is our other recommended park tonight. While this one is not located in a qualified census tract, the area that it serves is absolutely qualifies, and it has a particular fit with our violence intervention program because of the gang activity in the area and a holistic approach to an intervention program with youth. And when we provide really functional park space and recreation options for kids, it's much easier to have a violence intervention program that works when you have programs where kids actually have something to do, and they have a nice park where they can go and they can play basketball and they can play baseball or soccer or, you know, whatever they want to do, and they have programs after school, and they don't just go home and there's nothing, or there's a park that is falling apart. I think we want to be providing for all of the neighborhoods in the city, for all of the youth in the city, things that they can do rather than, you know, multi-generational gangs. I mean, that's not something that we want any kid to think that's their only way forward in life. We want them to see that there are other alternatives. And then the Roosevelt Bowl renovation is another area that we would like to invest in with this latest round of funding. This is an outdoor amphitheater that was built in 1934 by the Work Progress Administration, the WPA. Also located in a qualified census tract. This one's in Ward 2. And this provides additional outdoor options for safe, socially distanced entertainment, so falls under the qualified expenditures under ARPA. And I think it's kind of cool picture from 1934. And then the one and then that's the, somewhat lousier picture that I took the other day. It's an interesting contrast, Yeah. And then Lytle Creek Park, the new soccer field that we would convert the disused parking lot at the north end into. And Alex and his team took a look at it, and they felt that the best use of that parking lot that's kind of a mess up there that could be converted to a soccer field for about $600,000. I took that picture too, in that parking lot. And I'll just, next time I'm cruising around. Obviously, it was during a windstorm, all of the pictures that day, because all of the palm trees are leaning over. But yeah, Lytle Creek Park it's a very nice park, but this particular parking lot is kind of a mess, and it would add a lot of options if we just did that, because nobody uses this parking lot. It's gross. So our total recommendation this time with council is to dedicate $4 million to small business and nonprofit assistance, and we will come back with $10,000 to $45,000 or $35,000. I'm sorry, grant amounts. Second Lake Park at $9 million. Nicholson Park at 8.85, and the 8.85 includes, that's because we have a couple of other funding sources that are being applied to that park that bring the total funding to 10 million. So this is part of the funding for Nicholson Park. Roosevelt Bowl for $600,000 and Lytle Creek Park Soccer Field for $600,000 for a total of $23,050,000. And then this is our progress on commitments so far. The Violence Intervention Program RFP closed on the 18th of January. There were 4 responses, and they were, when I put this together, under initial review. The next steps were a review panel, site visits, agency interviews, and then staff will bring recommendations and the decision criteria to council as you all had requested. And then the graffiti cleanup and paintbrush program, the cleanup RFP responses were received. The costs were rather higher than we anticipated. So we are evaluating bringing that cleanup in-house. We believe that staff can do that much more efficiently than the costs we got for that cleanup. Graffiti and paintbrush RFP has, that's already been received and that's under review right now. The water lead connector replacement program, the design RFP is in development. It's anticipated to be issued the end of this month. The design should be awarded by the end of the fiscal year. That'll take about 6 to 9 months. Construction will begin late next spring, and it should be done by December of 23. And these are our total that we will receive and our commitments. So we have about 46 million unallocated remaining. All right. So next steps for staff would be establishing the grant program parameters and an application, beginning work on projects that you approved tonight, and continuing work on the projects that we're working on. And we will continue to update you on new and changing guidance from Treasury. Things coming up for you are the mid-year report, which will actually be on March 2nd, because I have 2 new budget people, which is fantastic. And then a progress report on all of the ARPA commitments, which you'll receive in March or April. Like questions?
Thank you. Sorry, I have a cough drop going right there. Councilmember Reynoso.
I'm going to be very brief, and I challenge my colleagues to do the same. Just address it, say it, don't riff too much. So I have notes here. I'm going to be very straightforward, so you could just take notes as I'm doing this. I want to know, I'm not opposed to any of the park funding. I just want to know what the plan would be, and I guess this would be helpful, the city manager was here, for maintenance upkeep. Like, do we have estimates on what that would look like after we would potentially build all these beautiful things at the parks? That's just a question. You could take that down. And I love the Roosevelt Bowl renovation. Absolutely. We look a little heartless with only $1 million to the VIP program. I'm just going to say that. So I don't know if it's possible to revisit that. That's a hot topic, but we can just leave it at that. I'm trying to be really brief here. I would like to bump the microgrant program from $4 million to $5 million, keep the $1 million for the Aspen Institute, and I want to allot a significant portion, if not the entirety, of the $1 million, because I fully understand what the purpose of the incubator is, to education similar to, I know this is more policy, so Ed, if you could take notes on this, similar to the policies that were initiated in Los Angeles, where they provide actual like street cards, so that we don't have to deal with the hiccups of like health and safety standards and things like that, and an educational resource center that is training people on what they're allowed to do, and then we can discuss the parameters around making that a safe space, et cetera. But the Aspen Institute, for what it is, this is what it should really be. So the $1 million, I appreciate that being there, but the microgrant from $4 to $5 million, I appreciate you also bumping that, because Councilman Alexander had originally mentioned like going up to 50,000. That was a nice middle number, the 35. But I agree with 10 being the small or the minimum. My question is, because the Blair Park, that area is in a qualified census tract, my understanding. What about the baseball fields, the lighting, and a potential expansion of the skate park? And also trail systems where they exist within qualified census tracts, if we can invest there, if possible. And I'd like to know about Treasury requirements on storm drainage. This was something that I had flagged when we initially had discussed the money. That's a significant issue, especially with the crazy flooding that happened in the deep north end. We've got a lot of replacement needed for the storm drainage pipes there. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Senator Ibarra.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, so I am interested in learning more about the Aspen Initiative myself as well. We had members of the community come out talking about providing education and resources to our day laborers around the city. The same could be for the street vendors that we have currently that still don't have their permits, if we can help them. I know we have currently the program, I think it's still active, with the Mexican consulate. So I don't know if they're going to be cooperating or collaborating with the Mexican consulate to target the Latino-owned businesses, the small businesses. That'd be excellent. And I'm okay with upping the $4 million for the micro businesses to $5 million. My question I have, I didn't see it here. Are we still going to include homelessness as part of the American Rescue Funds, or that's not, because that wasn't in the packet. I know we've talked about it. I like that you touched on the beautification aspect, because that's something that we need around in the city. I always point it out to our city manager, like go down Waterman and Baseline, for example. It's getting out of hand. And I don't know if this would also include maybe clearing up the palm trees, the fronds around the city. They're in very bad shape. If we can look into that, something that we can service, provide on our own. And those would be my only comments. Yeah, I didn't see the homelessness outlined here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Director Whitehorn, for the report. I appreciate you and your pictures, so you maybe get hazardous duty pay. I agree with Roosevelt Theater. That overhaul is long due, so that is a excellent idea. I appreciate what we're doing with the both parks. But my question is, as always, is Smart City Solutions. Are we going to put in charging stations or anything like that to be ahead of the game? Because all cars, right now, 1 out of every 5 cars almost on the freeway in Southern California is an electric car. And if you're at the park for any length of period of time, you might want to, charge your car. So if that's not in the thought process, let's be ahead. Oh, okay, yes. So let's be ahead of the game instead of being behind the game. This time, maybe we can put a couple of charging stations in those parks, so those who drive up with their cars, Chevy Volts or whatever, their Teslas, they have a place to go. I mean, be ahead of the game. The Aspen Institute, thank you very much. That's a great initiative, and once again, that's forward thinking, and I appreciate you guys doing that. The $5 million is fine, but I just do have one quick question. I'll try to be brief, like Councilman Reynoso said. How much money is going into the institute itself? Are you separating the money from the institute from the small business grants? And so what's the?
Yeah, we were thinking $3 million to the grants and $1 million to the institute. And then I was going to ask clarification from Councilmember Reynoso. Did you want an additional $1 million to an educational resource center, separate from the other $4 million?
I'm not opposed to that. That'd be nice. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's add, just so we can have a conversation to clip it down if we need to, let's add an extra for the Educational Resource Center specifically, but I see it as an arm of the Aspen Institute.
Okay. Is that what you had in mind?
Well, yeah, I just want to make sure that when we come back, when we circle back around and we say educate, if you could please give us what you're going to be educating our residents on. Are you educating them on business, how to start? Are you helping them with business plans? If you can just spin that up a little more detail, I would appreciate it.
That's exactly, the intention. Please bring it back like that. And then it goes all the way through beyond just like how to start it up, the legal, like the real education on how you have to stay within the law when you do this.
Yeah, it should be how to sustain your business once you get it going too, how to keep your books, how to, have.
Yes, accounting principles, best accounting principles.
Exactly.
All those particular issues that make someone successful. We want to make people successful.
Precisely. We don't want to just show someone how to put a business out there. We want them to be successful in the long term so that they are a business that sustains our city into the future.
Now, and this is my last question. Now, what do you think this will be, you'll be able to spin this up? Not the Aspen Institute, because I know that's going to take a little while longer, but the small business grants. I was told by the city manager this would be accomplished by February.
I'm sorry. I mean, I love to imagine that we could snap our fingers and make that happen. I think the reality is that we have to develop an application and criteria. And I know that there are some state criteria, and I'm hoping that they will align with what ARPA has in mind, which we have to align with. And Treasury is still defining all of their criteria, which is unbelievably frustrating from the position of someone who wants to get the money out there. I want to make sure that we can give this money away and that we aren't going to be imposing on small businesses and nonprofits after the fact and saying, oh, wait, they've told us this now, so now we have to change something. I want to be able to say, take this money. We told you you could do what you want to do with it. Go forth and do what you want to do. Because we don't have all of the guidance from Treasury yet, which is just killing me because they have a final rule, but they're still not done. I think we could have a program by the end of the fiscal year. I think we could start taking applications in June. I think we could probably start awarding funds at the beginning of the next fiscal year. I think that's a realistic goal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And can you, speaking of being green again, and I'm sorry, that's my pet peeve. In the parking lots at our various parks, you know how you see at schools, they have their parking lots, they have those solar panel issues up there. Is that something that we could do? Or is that nothing? But just food for thought. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Councilmember Calvin.
Thank you, Ms. Whitehorn and staff. This was really, really a great presentation. I appreciate it. I just have a couple of questions. With the $1 million allocated towards the Aspen Initiative, will we be able to see exactly how they plan on using the funding?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I think we would want to bring them forward to explain how the program will work, what they will do with the community, how their outreach will work. I would want them to come to a council meeting and describe their whole program, I would think, because that's $1 million. That's a pretty big deal.
And then as far as the processes, for each applicant, that seems to be something that's going to be needing to be derived, correct? Created, right? And then we will be able to see that, how that's going to be intended as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. And then okay, I'll leave that alone. So when I look at the allocation for Nicholson Park and the Succumbia Lake allocation, and it says in lieu of, and then I go down and I read, right, could you be a little bit specific for that, for the community?
Yes. The reason we wrote this resolution in this kind of crazy language, because of resolutions, in lieu of future grants, is that we will continue to pursue grants at the state level, at the federal level, for Second Lake, for Nicholson Park, for every park that we fund with ARPA funds, so that if we get other park funding for those places, then we can reallocate the ARPA funds to small businesses, maybe to homeowners, maybe, to some other storm drainage, because that is an allowable expenditure. But if we can use these funds for something other than that, if we get some other grant, we will use these for something else.
Okay, great. So with the plans that were already being derived, we had looked at a couple of renditions for Nicholson Park, correct? The funds that were allocated for those plans not included in this 8 million. What, the plans? Okay. So like I said, not included in this American Rescue funding, right?
No, the fund that you have in the front of you is in addition to 1.15 million that we got from CDBG funds for that park.
Okay, thank you. That's what I need to know. Okay, so, and with the, in lieu of, still are searching for grants for both of these projects, what does that mean? Does that mean that these projects do not get started until we get all the way to the deadline? Or does it mean that we will begin to work and whatever grant funding that we have, we'll throw that in, remove the American Rescue Funds out, but it does not mean a delay on either one of these projects,
The
correct?
latter. It will not delay these projects. We don't want the potential of grants to delay the projects, and that's why we're saying let's commit the rescue plan funds now, get these parks going, because these parks are critical, especially Nicholson, in my opinion. I think we have to get these parks operational for our community. I think that's more important than pursuing the potential grants with the state. I think it's great that there could be more grant funding, but I think it's more important that we get these parks done. And we have the money before us. I think we should use what we have. If we get money from the state, that's fabulous. We'll use that instead, and we'll reassign this money.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. We have Councilmember Theodore Sanchez.
Yes, the only addition that I would add is I would direct staff to bring back by April parameters and guidelines for the micro grants. I want to ensure that we're in compliance with ARP, the Small Business Administration, and any other jurisdiction or any other agency that has jurisdiction over this grant money. It is public funds. It isn't private funds. It belongs to everyone. And I want to ensure that these grants don't turn into personal profits for any individual small business. This needs to be something that that can be seen and felt throughout the community when these small business owners apply for this grant, receive the grant, and then are able to invest in their businesses that directly affect the well-being of everyone here in our city, because it is public money. So I want to ensure that happens. Can we add that staff come back by April? Is April doable, Ms. Finance Director?
I think so. To have a draft application, I think that's absolutely doable.
Draft application with all the requirements, and then, of course, we can hash those out here, what we would accept and what we want to throw out. But I want to ensure that money is being correctly spent.
Absolutely. I think that's reasonable, because then council can decide what criteria they feel is appropriate, what they think is maybe overreach. Yeah.
Good. Perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, no further questions. I don't see any other names. Sorry, my screen looks a little different from when I'm normally not here. Okay. I have to unclick it. It won't let me click on it. Okay. So if there's no other comments, I guess, do we vote? Is it just kind of a providing direction? What's the recommendation here? Okay, so then we'll
Yes,
go
you
ahead.
would have to vote.
Okay.
I move to approve with the necessary changes that the council members said, $5 million for the small business aspect program, and anything else that. What else
I'll
did y'all
entertain a
say?
second.
Yeah, I thought this was just like a discussion, like you take notes and you kind of like bring it back to us more formally.
If I may, the item that you have before you is a recommendation to adopt a resolution allocating $9 million out of the American Rescue Plan to Second Lake in lieu of future grant funding, 8.85 for Nicholson, $4 million for small business and nonprofit grant program, 1.2 million for renovation of the Roosevelt Bowl.
Yeah, so bumping it up to 5 is fine for the small business with the same number of the 1 million for the Aspen Institute. I just wanted to make sure that what we have discussed though, like to look into, like storm drainage, is still okay. Cool. Y'all second.
Eddie, I think that you said 1.2 million for the Roosevelt Bowl, but you needed to include, it was 600,000 for the bowl, 600,000 for Lytle Creek. Or just, what she stated though was 1.2 million.
I read
for
it
the bowl.
verbatim from the staff report. Barbara, can you confirm those numbers?
It's 1.2 million for the Roosevelt Bowl and Lytle Creek.
And Lytle Creek.
So that's why it's 600 divided, if when you divide by 2, it's 600. Okay. Any other questions, comments? And so we are taking a vote on this item then? Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed with the, there was a second, right? There was, okay, we'll proceed with the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Let's see, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 7. An ordinance restricting the duration of interim or acting director positions.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Assistant City Manager.
Second.
Or
I'll make a substitute motion to not approve this.
okay, open it up to discussion for the substitute motion to not approve. Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes, I'm looking down at our staff, and I think more than half of our directors now are females, and that's a beautiful thing. We're leading the front on that, and we have to be cognizant of the unintended consequences of this. We could have a young, bright, promising female candidate come in and take the role of one of the executives to lead one of our departments. And if this rule is in place, she will be put in a corner because she'll have to really decide between a career and having a child or starting a family. This is very plausible for a young female executive to need to take several months off when becoming pregnant and giving birth, and then in the subsequent months for recovery. So that puts this city in a difficult position because now you're approaching month 6 of a young executive, a young female executive who was given birth, has a child, and staff is going to have to. The city manager is going to have to make the difficult decision of, well, she's been out on maternity leave for almost 6 months. We now have to demote her because this rule is in place. That is that is one of those awful, awful unintended consequences with legislation like this. On top of the fact that I do believe that it's contrary to our city charter, we have given, and the voters have said, this will be a professionally run city corporation or municipal corporation, and that the city manager will have the sole discretion on hiring, firing, and promoting staff to the various positions. So when we don't, well, I'm going to go there. I'm just going to say that there are unintended consequences here that outweigh any benefit to us putting this into legislation.
Thank you, sir. Followed by Councilmember, gentleman from the 4th Ward, Councilmember Fred Charette.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure I would use that exact argument, but it's a good one as well. I think this is micromanagement by the staff, by the council in this case, where I believe I'm very concerned about somebody that might be an interim or an acting while we're searching for someone to fill the position full time. I see some real problems with it. I probably wouldn't happen because we wouldn't somehow wouldn't allow it to. But if we said we're tying our hands, saying that someone that's been in there for 6 months and we've had a problem recruiting somebody, and now all of a sudden just at the end of that period we found somebody, but it's going to take us another couple of months maybe to work out the details and get that person on staff. What do we do in that interim period? We let the interim acting person go, and then have nobody in a lead position in that particular department. I just don't think that this makes sense, tying our hands to a limited time. I obviously would encourage the city manager and staff to fill positions as quickly as possible. I don't like the idea of an interim person being there for 2 or 3 years, but that's the responsibility of the city manager, and I think we, again, as the directors that give him, in this case him, direction to run the organization, that we make it clear that we want those positions filled as quickly as possible, but that isn't always the case. It just isn't, and we don't know. We can't provide for all the potential problems that might occur during this thing. So I won't be supporting it. I think it's tying our hands, and I just don't believe in that. I think we need to be flexible, and so I won't be supporting this item.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Ben Reynoso.
So the intention was definitely to keep this city operating at its highest capacity. And I wish I didn't have to do this, but being the youngest brother of a bunch of older women and being around powerful women my whole life, I think you totally missed the mark on gender equity, Councilman Sanchez. That's not how you talk about it. And first off, you don't try to speak for a woman. Second, you don't put all of the old school domesticated roles on a woman. This is about the interim placement, and although the points were valid, that made me uncomfortable, and that's why I clicked to speak, because we found these incredible directors, not female directors, not women directors. I know you're women. I would never call you a female, but we found these directors in less time than that, and there was no coincidence. It was because the pressure was on. We needed a Parks and Rec director. Eddie moved up to assistant city manager. We needed an HR director. Chris Watson's killing it at the animal shelter. We've got Barbara Whitehorn, director of finance. It didn't take that long. The goal here was just to keep the fire on the city manager to get it done. And I appreciate, creating the time and the space to allow for more people and more candidates to apply. But we found greatness in less time than it took. And so that's all I wanted to say. And I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. Followed by Councilmember Damon Alexander.
Thank you. And I guess at some point, Director Anderson, we're going to let you speak here. But Councilman Charette asked, what about if it extends beyond the 6 months? It's a simple solution. You just ask for an extension, and we'll grant it. It's really easy. We still don't have a CED director, and it's going on I don't know how many months. We still don't have a public works director, and it's going on how many months. This is to make sure that whoever sits in a seat, this is not about people, this is about the office of the city manager's office, that if they are in that seat and it takes longer, which it doesn't take longer, as Councilman Reynoso said, to hire people. It doesn't. When they know that the person, the director, is leaving that particular job, they need to get on it. And this just makes them get on it. That's all. No more, no less. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Sandra Ibarra.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. My only comment, I don't know if any of my colleagues would be amenable to changing the duration of an interim director or interim to 3 months instead of 6 months. I believe it is the purview of the city manager to promote within. If he sees that there's a candidate good enough to fit to be an interim for 3 months, why not automatically give them that position if they can't find a viable candidate within 3 months? I mean, that would be my suggestion. I know in other jobs out there in the corporate world, they usually give people a 90-day time frame to see how they perform. I think our city could possibly do the same. If other companies are doing it, maybe our city can do it as well. And that's putting the pressure on our city manager.
Thank you, Councilmember. Seeing no other speakers, I will call for the question.
Is there a substitute motion?
Yes, this will be on the substitute.
That would be my substitute if anybody's amenable to bringing it down from 6 months to 3 months.
Ms. City Clerk, don't we have a substitute motion on the floor?
There's currently a substitute on the table
Yes,
right
we have a
now.
motion, a substitute, and is she making a second substitute motion?
I second.
You seconded the first substitute motion, so we have a motion on the floor and one substitute motion. It's been my experience here that we don't take second and third substitute motions.
Correct. There hasn't been a second on my.
Okay.
I'll call for the question.
There's a motion to deny, right?
Oh, thank you. Clarification, please, on what motion that we are voting on.
This is on the substitute motion to deny item 7.
To deny it in total,
Yes.
which is the same as him just voting no.
To not approve the item. If you don't mind, if we can do a voice vote, since it's not the initial recommendation. Councilmember Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Charette?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynoso?
No.
Councilmember Calvin?
No.
Councilmember Alexander?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
The motion to deny item number 7 passes 4-3. Councilmembers Reynoso, Calvin, and Alexander voted in opposition.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. Let's see here. Are there any pulls from the executive staff at this point?
I have some polls.
Miss Assistant City Manager, the staff pulling any items on the consent? No. Okay, Councilmember Sanchez from Ward 1.
What was that?
Any pulls from the consent?
Only 20. I live near one of the construction sites, so I'll be abstaining.
Okay. Councilmember Ibarra?
I have a quick question on items 16 and 17.
Please proceed with your question, please.
Okay, my question is if anybody in the staff knows how much we've paid out to these two engineering companies, EC&AM Associates, DBA GK and Associates, and the infrastructure engineers. We first approved their contract back in December 2019, and we want to see how much they've been paid out since, and what is their reasoning with us increasing their total contract amount.
The actual contract for these services is for inspection and plan check services, and it's set up at $100,000 a year. So the first year we spend 100, the second year we spend 100, and this year we're planning, after your approval, spend another 100 for both companies the same way. And that is all for inspection services that we've been having. They've been providing us very specialized inspections. One of them is the inspector that is inspecting the Second Street Bridge, which is very specialized, that I do not have in my staff. That's why I utilize their services.
So by automatic default, we're giving them 100,000 every year, and you're asking us
That,
to
exactly.
up their contract?
Yes, and
We're
this
not
is-
opening RFPs for other engineering companies?
This is the last year for their contract because it's renewable, and then we will go ahead with another RFP out, and then hopefully we get some more people.
Those were my only questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Charette. Councilmember Reynoso.
15 and 17, and a comment on 20, Hudson Park neighborhood, Mr. Kishta, for your concrete plan. And yeah, just 15 and 17 though.
Okay. Councilmember Calvin.
I don't have any pulls, but I do have a question for item number 15.
Please proceed with your question.
Item 15 is identified as being in Ward 6. I don't believe that that's Ward 6.
That is Ward 4. That is for the 40th Street extension. I'm sorry, but because we have another item for the next.
Don't try to
for
charge
the
me.
state.
Don't charge.
Completely
Don't
understand.
charge
It is-
Ward
That
6.
is absolutely a mistake. It's Ward 4. I'm sorry.
And any others? That's it. Councilmember Alexander.
No pools.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the balance. Any second?
Second.
Ms. City Clerk.
To a voice vote, Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Charette, Councilmember Reynoso.
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Okay, consent passes unanimously.
Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed with item number 15. Councilmember Reynoso.
So I was reading this, and contract expired in 2019, and we're basically contemplating renewing the contract through 2024. There's nothing against you. All right, don't take it that way.
Okay.
But it seems like we're kind of like BSing a little bit. Like the fact that it hasn't had to advance, and I understand why it needs street widening. I went to Cajon, so a lot of time went to lunch over there, Rosa Maria's. But this doesn't seem like priority, and I feel like instead of renewing a contract and dumping more money, we should instead be reevaluating like more CIP investment.
So this contract, sir, is only time extension. It's have no money attached to it because the money that was allocated when we give that agreement when we started it. The reason why this project is taking too long is because of right-of-way acquisition. We have 25 properties that we need to get right away. So we secured some of them, but we are still having problems with 2-3 properties that one might have to go to eminent domain. We need the company to keep in for the design services that we need. And then that is, they help us because we are going to do like an undergrounding, all of these utilities underground. And we have a Rule 20A with Edison that is applied for that area. So their services still needed. And the reason why 2024 is because eminent domain procedure, I'm not sure if you guys, I know it can take up to 2 years. It depends on how we're going to do it. That's why we need the company to stay for the design. So the amendment in ahead of you is only for time extension, have nothing to do with money.
So you're telling me it's not going to cost any money if we bring them on through 2024?
Zero.
The goodness of their heart.
Zero. When we originally gave them the, they got the agreement or they submit their RFP, all of the services was included in there. It just, we taking the time because of the other things that we're doing, yeah.
But eminent domain, this sounds, how many houses did you say?
We are looking at 2 properties at this point of time.
And
we secured
they don't
everything
want to
but
leave
the 2 properties.
because they don't want to leave.
They don't, no, it's not that. It's, they don't want to talk to us.
Probably because they figure we're going to take their house.
It's not, it's 10 feet in the frontage of the house. We're not taking the house completely. We're taking 10 feet only, but they don't want to talk to us. And we tried everything we can. And they just like, no.
Someone else will have to make a motion. I'm going to have to abstain from this. I feel how I feel about it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second by Councilmember Sanchez.
Motion passes with 6 votes in favor and Councilmember Reynoso abstaining.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 17. Councilmember Reynoso.
So there's been a lot of, the BNSF Ono expansion is the expansion that's being contemplated right now, correct?
That is a project going to be, that was looked by the Planning Commission in the last meeting for the vacation of I Street, and is going to be coming to the council for that. Yes, but we are receiving plans for that.
Right. So I have a lot of concern just around that item. I know it's not here, but explain to me legally in the proceedings. I know it's normal, but can you tell me what's possible if we're going to be voting on that coming forward? I imagine I talked to Rob and he said it would be this agenda or the next one. So it's probably going to be the next one. The expansion itself, the vacation of I Street for it.
The vacation of I Street is scheduled for the second meeting in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question here is, what else do they do for us besides this? Because the way I'm thinking about it is we don't need to approve this until that's approved.
The item before you tonight is not only for the Ono track, for plan checking, but that this company provide to us also the inspection services
Everywhere? Or
for specialized projects.
like,
Which is item number 17. We're looking at advanced. They are providing for me on the street signal lights projects, because I don't have that expertise in my staff. So you consult with them to do the inspection for that.
do we have anybody else who does that as well? Or they do it for all of us?
No, there's other companies can do that. Yes, that's
No, not can. Are there other companies currently doing that?
for us. No, that's the only
Okay.
company.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve then.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Reynoso and a second by Councilmember Charette.
Sorry, the motion passes with 6 votes in favor, and Councilmember Ibarra is away for this item.
Thank you. And I guess the final item was the item pulled by Councilmember Sanchez, number 20, for purposes of, he had to abstain. So I'm not sure if we have to still take a vote on that one, or we'll just,
We have it in the past.
okay, so that's fine. So it's already part of the consent. Okay.
Hudson Park.
Yes.
That neighborhood is really messed up, man.
Okay.
Slabs. Teeter-totter slabs. Concrete.
So you will be, I'm not sure if but in the next meeting, you will see that we are awarding contract for concrete work. So that will help a lot.
Thank you.
So, motion, second?
I'll second. I believe you made a motion.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Sorry.
So we'll go ahead and proceed with the vote for item number 20, with Councilmember Sanchez abstaining.
Since they're both away, I'll take a voice vote.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Charette? Yes. Councilmember Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilmember Calvin?
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander?
Aye.
And Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes with 5 votes in favor, reflecting Councilmember Sanchez abstain and Councilmember Ibarra is absent from this item.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to items to be considered for future meetings. The contract with Placeworks, separate from the general plan, to complete the restricted truck routes within a year timeframe. Councilmember Reynoso, please.
Yes, so the goal here, thank you, Councilman Alexander, for initially bringing up the restricted truck routes. I know it's beyond needed everywhere in the city, but at the pace it was going to be included in the general plan, which isn't slated to be completed for about another 2 years, my understanding. And it's not just Miss Ortega's story, but everywhere in the city where diesel trucks are rolling right through neighborhoods, people have actually been killed by these things, but rolling right next to your church isn't a good time. Next to your school is definitely not a good time. and we just need to think out a plan. And I know for a fact PlaceWorks has done this as a consultant for the city of Harupa Valley, where it was done successfully. It's not perfect, but it didn't take them that long. And so this is just, in consulting with Rob or a city manager, it will allow for us to basically up the time frame from the 2 years or potentially longer for completion of general plan to 1 year. And so that's the goal here. And we would obviously visit this as a formal item to see what the exact timing would be on that after they consult with PlaceWorks. But this is the goal here, just to speed that up a little bit, just because it's beyond needed.
I move that we do that.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. If council members will cast their vote, please.
Motion passes with 5 votes in favor. Councilmember Sanchez voted in opposition, and Councilmember Ibarra is away for this item.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and conclude here. The next joint regular meeting of the mayor and city council, and the mayor and city council acting as the successor agency to the redevelopment agency, will be held on Wednesday, February 16th, 2022 in the council chamber located at 555 West 6th Street, San Bernardino, California, 92401. Closed session will begin at 5:30 p.m. and open session will begin at 7 p.m. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.